Joe, this is sad. We're hundreds of miles apart again.
Thousands of
Thou-
miles apart.
Thousands of miles apart so for those of you who may not have listened to last week's episode, even though you totally should, Joe and I met for the first time in person in 9 years. When I say that out loud, we sound ridiculous.
Yeah, but you kind of sound like we met 9 years ago, but we never met. We've known each other for 9 years. We've worked together for 9 years on and off, but never met until last week
Yeah. And
in San Francisco, where neither of us live.
I know. Now we're back in Massachusetts and Colorado. But we were able to talk about marketing strategy and the sales process and the planning phase of both of those realms last week. This week, I want to talk about, or at least want to start with onboarding. And Joe, how many conversations do you think we've had about onboarding in the past, let's say 6 months, not even a year, 6 months?
Yeah, a lot, and it's really important.
Yes.
It's really important, and it's kind of like one of those things where it's almost like you probably should have a different name because you kind of should never stop. You're really trying to always bring people along. But anyway, I'm going to let you talk because
well, what I liken it to for the buyer's journey, a lot of people end at the sale when really the sale is kind of the beginning. With the wedding analogy, like once somebody buys, now you're married. Now you have to maintain that relationship and make people be like, oh yeah, I did the right thing marrying this person. But onboarding is so important, and it's basically the delight phase of the buyer's journey. Once somebody makes a sale, that's when you really have to get in there and make them feel good about that purchase, because so many times, whether somebody's buying a product or a service, buyer's remorse kicks in. And so it's up to you to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's so important. We're talking about the planning phase of the solopreneur success cycle. So this is when you're putting all of your ideas down, not necessarily the implementation. And the reason why you need to be thinking about onboarding is it will save you time in the long run. It establishes expectations from the get-go with your new client or customer. It builds trust because you get in front of them right after purchase and you're like, hey, you did the right thing. Good on you. Like I said, it's part of the delight phase. It increases retention and upselling opportunities. So if you can get in there right after the purchase, hold their hand, show them what they did, make them feel good, you'll have a lot more opportunities to upsell in the future as well, because you had a good onboarding plan, which
upsell or renew. Just one of the things to think about is, you go in, let's say you're online and you buy something and nothing happens, right? You don't get an email. This happened to me the other day from somebody that I'm very surprised that happened with because they're usually
offline.
I'll tell you offline. But yeah, I've got nothing. I committed to a $20 a month payment and I've got nothing. And it's just not how it should be. I should have gotten an email, should have told me how, what I got, what I bought, how to use it, why it's a good idea, what I'm going to get out of it. Remind me all the reasons that I clicked that buy button, and I got nothing.
It goes back to the marriage analogy. When you think you're going to, you think you know your future spouse, and then you marry them, they become a different person.
When I got married, I'm telling silly stories here, but one of the things my wife said she liked about me when we were engaged is that I've never really been into watching professional sports. I would rather be out doing something than watching TV. So I wasn't really a professional sports watcher, which of course isn't always great when you're trying to bond with guys because it's what they like to bond over. So we get married. The first week of our marriage, the Red Sox finally make it into the World Series, for a second time in my life to that point. And I'm sitting there every night glued to the television set, and she's like, "You lied to me."
This is a cultural thing, not a sports thing. But anyway, we digress. We could tell these marriage stories all day long. But just before we get into kind of some ideas to kick off the onboarding process, the other thing is it's really good for referrals. Again, if you can give somebody the warm and fuzzies once they make the purchase, they'll be like, oh, Joe, this company, I signed up for them. They've done this. It's amazing. It's so much more than I even thought it would be. Always exceed expectations when it comes to your onboarding process. But just to get the wheels turning, I mean, the first thing with an onboarding experience is a warm welcome and preventing that buyer's remorse. So it could be sending a personalized message in a video. And again, it depends on what you do. If you're a coach, maybe send them a video, maybe call them, like actually do that human connection portion. If it's like a more one-on-one experience, obviously if you're selling a product, it's hard to call a lot more people and do that one-on-one. But you could certainly send a personalized video if you want for that, or next steps guide. I don't know, resources. I'm trying to think through like even our process right now.
Anything that's going to help people feel, that they are going to get the value from the purchase, right? Or something that makes them just feel good about you, that the person that they've, and again, it really depends how, like we talk about the touch level of sales, right? So is it high touch where you should probably call them up and say, hey, or if it's low touch, if they're buying a 1995, gadget that you sell on Etsy, you're not going to be able to call them on the phone. I hope, or you aren't selling very many if you have time for that. But yeah, but I mean, just something to make them feel. I remember I bought nail clippers one time I think it was on Amazon too, and I got a little handwritten note with the nail clippers, just saying, we really worked hard to make this a really high quality product. And I'm like, wow, but it was a handwritten note. I mean, they probably cranked them out, but I don't know. It's just stuff like that, right? I mean, just something to make you feel good.
Totally. So once you make them feel good, then start delivering your product or service. Once you've kicked that buyer's remorse out the door and everything, make it easy for them to use your product or continue with your service. So whether that is further instructions on what you need to do, a Q&A, live events. I mean, there are so many different options, but like make the receiving part of your product or service enjoyable as well. Again, the whole point of onboarding is to make them feel good about their purchase. And that doesn't stop. Like you were saying, it's funny that we call it onboarding because really it's called the delight phase of the buyer's journey.
Right. There's so many different ways. Sweetwater, they're a musical instrument seller online. And whether I buy a expensive guitar or a cable from them, it comes with a little bag of candy.
Yes.
And it's like, I know that's goofy, but it's just, there's a little bit of just something like, hey, we're thinking about this. We're thinking about you. And I mean, I'm not saying that a gimmick is going to make up for really caring, but there's just, depending on what you're doing, there's just ways of kind of standing out a little bit. But the main thing is to make sure that people feel like you care about them, that you've got their back, that you're doing what you said you were going to do. And then, it all flows better from there.
Yeah. And then once they have your product and service in hand, help them find success with it. Check in on them and say, hey, how are things going? Here are some Q&As that some of my previous clients or customers have found helpful. Here are some tutorials. I have a whole library of tutorials that can help you figure out X, Y, and Z. Hey, I noticed you're doing my online course. Are you struggling? We have an online support group that can help with this. Like, just because they have your product, that doesn't mean they know how to use it or use it well.
Remember Kevin Fremont that we had on?
Yeah.
He created a theme for HubSpot websites he's done like over $1 million. This is going back a couple of years ago. He had done over $1 million in revenue selling this one website theme. But he's always reaching out. He's always sending little updates, but he has this thing called I think he calls it the Happiness Center. And it's basically a bunch of videos of how to use his stuff that you can go to, and he'll remind you about it in an email every once in a while. You can go there, whatever you want to do, you click on the video, it shows you how to do it. And, he really gets it. It's just, kind of keeping that, I care about you. I want to make sure you're successful. Here's some stuff to help you kind of attitude.
Yeah. And then once they find success with your product or service, turn them into fans, and then turn those fans into evangelists, because those are the people that will start referring your business. They'll be telling their friends about it. You'll be at a dinner party and the name of your business will come up because they're just so excited and want to share. And that makes your sales process so much easier. It makes your lead generation so much easier. I mean, if you can turn these people into super fans, they'll end up doing the selling for you,
So is there any secrets to that? Like to kind of taking them from that kind of evangelist to super fan, or am I mixing up the terms here?
No. I mean, it's to continue nurturing, to continue fostering that relationship, even after they've found success with your product or service. Because that's where a lot of people fall out. They're like, okay, they succeeded, bye. And then it's a cycle. It shouldn't even be like it just, I feel like we've been talking about loops and cycles a lot the past 2 weeks, but it really is like once they've found success, continue to woo them, continue to keep that spark alive, I guess is what we'll say. It's funny because even the company that we work with from a podcast guesting standpoint for us, I remember when I got the notebook from them and a personalized card and a pen, and it was just cute, or even dummies. The dummies team did such a good job. The team over at Wiley sent us cool swag. Like I wear my dummy shirt. I have my little like bag that I bring for groceries. And I just felt very VIP. I get that there's so many other authors out there. I get that there are so many other podcast guests out there. But in that moment, I felt like I was carrying the company. Like I was like, oh, look what I have. And just continuing to make them feel important. That doesn't mean you have to talk to them every day. It doesn't even mean you necessarily have to talk to them every week, but just don't forget about them. Once they have found success, continue to check in. Maybe that's meetups. Maybe that's, hey, we have a new feature. Again, the upsell opportunities. We know you found success with XYZ. Have you considered this? And then you restart the cycle again. So onboarding, like you said, is funny because it never ends, but it doesn't have to be as consistent as
Right.
like further parts of the onboarding process as in the beginning when you need a lot of touch points.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, well, that's my spiel for today. I just wanted to give my 2 cents because I feel like we are always revising our onboarding process. You likely will not get it right the first time, but hey, you're a solopreneur and we're all in this together. So Joe, anyway, that's all I have. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, please leave that 5-star review, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share this episode with a friend if you think they'll find it helpful, which we think they will. And we will see you next time on The Aspiring Solopreneur.
And I just want to say, this is the episode where you actually really do go and leave the 5-star review because we haven't had one in a little while. I think we should start naming people that give us 5-star reviews. And maybe if we can send them I don't know, we don't have bumper stickers, a laptop sticker. What do you think?
I like it. You can go over all my
best
ones on the back of my laptop.
I gotta get on that right after we get off of this podcast.
Sound good.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.